Welcome to my September 2024 election predictions. So let's start off with the safe states. And there we go, but let's go now to two safe states that could actually drop down to likely states. So for New York, this is a state that I do believe will take a swing to the right from 2020, which it was a Biden win by 23.1%. Unfortunately, we don't have that many polls because, it's mostly a deep blue state. But if we go here, yeah, unfortunately we don't. But I'm guessing that the immigrant migration in New York could actually be a problem for Democrats in 2024 alongside high crime rates. But still, I think it's gonna be a Harris win by around 15 to 17%. And now for Florida, the home state of Donald Trump, it's gonna be really close to being a likely state for sure. Polling is rare because that's what usually happens when a state is that partisan. We don't really got anything here, and I've already checked 538, but I still expect him to win his home state and the capital Trumpism by just above a 12% margin. And now let's go to the likely states. So for a state that dropped down from safe R to likely R in this prediction, I should say it wasn't my last video because this is an actual video. So the last prediction I made was in the community post. I recommend really, checking on them because I do post quite often, and I recommend them because there's a lot of news and stuff that I can't make a video for every single breaking news. But in Iowa, we haven't gotten a poll recently, unfortunately, just like other states, safe R states. Let me check real quick. I don't think we have anything in 538. Yeah, I do think that Trump is underperforming right now, because we're almost 60 days away from the election. I'm an independent person, not say that it's pretty much a toss-up. And I think that the Trump of 2016 or 2020 would have been able to be doing better at this part of the election against Kamala Harris for sure. And I'm going to drop this from the 12% margin I had in my last community post / prediction of 2024 to a likely R margin of, I'm guessing like 9%, 8 to 10%, yeah. Think he might be underperforming with white working class voters, and that could be a real issue, but we will see what happens. And now for the next likely state that is on the higher end of things, to Ohio, it's the home state of JD Vance, Donald Trump's VP pick. And from the polling we've seen recently, there's not that much polling, but just independent polling and approval polling that does show that JD Vance hasn't really been a groundbreaking VP pick for Donald Trump, and maybe even is not doing anything for him, or even perhaps could actually be sinking him a tiny bit. He should be winning this state by a safe margin, but from what I've seen and the vibes and all that sort of stuff, it does seem like it's going to be a likely victory. Maybe even the same margin as 2020, which would be kind of funny because 2016 it was shows 8.1, so we might literally get a 0.1 margin better for Trump in here, but that's really about it. Vance is just underperforming for Trump currently, at least. For the next one, I think briefly this 2nd district of Maine, it's probably gonna be similar to 2020. I do think it's gonna be a bit more rightward. I'm guessing like 8 to 10%. I don't think it's gonna be safe R like my last prediction. I think I had it safe R, the district, and not too much to say around here, but high likely R. And let's go to Alaska, a state that I do think is trending slowly to the left. I'm not gonna say it's gonna flip in 2028 or 2024, of course, but Trumpism doesn't really mesh with well with Alaska politics from what we've seen. And let me see any polling. I wish we had polling, but yeah, there's no really point. I'm gonna check here real quickly, but it makes sense since Alaska is more of a kind of like establishment, more neoconish state. I think it's gonna be a likely R victory for Trump. I'm guessing probably like what 7 to 9, maybe like 6.5 to 8.5, so around like a high 7% margin for him. Ooh, before I forget, I shouldn't have done that. Maine at large, I think it's gonna be a Harris win by probably gonna say 6 to 8%, so around the same 7-point margin. Here it could drop down to lean R, to lean D, but I doubt that happens. And now for more interesting ones, I do believe Virginia, or I should say New Mexico. New Mexico is a state that, if Trump is able to do better with the Latino vote, it could become, I won't say a swing state, but it could be more interesting than expected. Polling rare here, but we do got this poll from Emerson, which shows it within like a 8% margin victory for Harris. I think she's probably gonna win here by around 7 to 9% in New Mexico. Probably 7 to 9%, which I do agree with that take. Virginia, finally, a really interesting state. So polling, if you've seen polling, by the way, Virginia, a lot of pollsters think this is a competitive and could actually even go for Donald Trump in 2024. Roanoke, they're okay. Emerson, they're, like I said before, not that great, but let me check if there's any other ones. Most pollsters, really do think Virginia, for some reason, 2024, they think that's going to flip. I mean, for example, we got 4% Trump win for Emerson, July, but yeah, I mean, that's just way back. Even Siena, for example, has this at +4. I don't know why they have that, and that just boggles my mind, because I do think it's probably gonna drop down from 2020. I don't think she's gonna be able to win by 10%, but I don't think Donald Trump's gonna win it by like a tall margin. So I think she wins it here by like 6 to 8%. So I'm still boggled by that, and that's something I'm gonna look forward to seeing how Virginia plays out. Maybe they have a reason for it, and I'm just talking nonsense right now. But I just want to see what happens or why. But yeah, now for Minnesota, the home state of Harris VP pick, as I've said before. With Walz, it's gonna help her quite a lot. I do believe that Walz is gonna help her in Minnesota. I don't know. After the election, we're going to see if Tim Walz was in fact the right pick for her. But because Josh Shapiro, Pennsylvania, she's gonna win here by 5 to 7%. Maybe as much as Biden, but I do think we've seen a bit of a drop off in Minnesota from the last pollings. For example, we go right here to, I actually posted about this in my community post not too long ago. So KSP TV polling, they actually have this as a Harris win by only 5%, which I showed in my community post. And that is a bit of a drop off, which is why I'm barely going to have this as a likely state, but it's not going to be as by much as a margin as I thought when she picked Walz as her pick. For the state of Texas, which this hopefully has more polling, Texas, establishment state, which is why Trump has not been getting high numbers in 2016, in this state in 2016 and 2020. And you don't have too many. I mean, recently don't have too many, but once election season comes in and probably around the debates in next week or whenever there's a debate, really, I can't wait for that. We're gonna get so many pollsters polling. Late August, we got these ones from Triple P, a bit of a Democrat-leaning one, but have this as a narrow Trump victory, and I think he's going to win here by more than 2020, of course. I don't know about 2016, though. I think it's going to be a mix. I think it's going to be right between 2016 and 2020, so I think he wins here by, let's see, no, not a likely D, I'm sorry about that. That'd be funny. Likely R, I think it's going to be a 6.5 to 8, no. For some reason, I feel like it's going to be in the 7-point territory. Don't know why, just my gut telling me what to say at this point, but I think he's going to win here. It's going to be interesting what happens in the Senate race, though, because All Red is trying a new tactic, silence tactic, kind of like a Arizona-style 2022 governor race. But yeah, that's it. Moving on to Nebraska's 2nd district. Another one that Walz should help Harris here quite a lot. And, well, why did it do that? No worries. Let's just go to here and there we go. Maybe that. There we go. So the last polling from Survey USA for the 2nd district right here, as you can see, does show Harris winning here by 5%. And I'd agree quite heavily that it's probably going to be by that margin. I wouldn't be surprised if it's like 6 or 8. I don't know if it's going to be... might actually be more than Biden, but we will see what happens. But I'm going to say 5 to 7%, yeah. And I think that's it for the likely states. So now let's move on to the lean states. So for the first lean state that I'm kind of torn, it could actually be a likely state. I'd say we can go to New Hampshire. So New Hampshire, it's kind of, I will say I do have a blind spot for northeastern states and politics. That is one of the issues I do have, because they have quite rural areas, but they tend to vote quite Democrat, and that does throw me off, and that does throw quite a lot of people. Polling right here, RCP 270. Let me check real quick here. So New Hampshire, there should be more polling, to be honest, but you got the College of St. Anselm. I don't know, St. Anselm. Terrible name, sorry about that. But moving on, does show this as a Harris victory by 7%. Emerson also shows this by a likely margin. Still, I don't know. I really don't know. I wouldn't be surprised if this is a state that she underperforms. Let me see. Biden won here by what, 7%? There was a Trump overperformance, and that's another thing. We don't know if Trump is going to overperform again, or if he's going to underperform, and that's another topic for another video, which I'm going to do. I still think she narrowly wins here by 3 to 5%. I don't know. It's gonna be hard to tell, because I could see this going all the way from the swing that we saw from 2016 to 2020, but backwards towards the Republicans to like a tilt margin, from a likely margin to a tilt margin, and now to a tilt margin perhaps. Don't know, so I'm just gonna go in the middle and say lean margin. The funniest moment would be if this goes by a safety margin, but I'm just gonna keep it up with what my gut says, and yeah. And now, so these following states, all of these, I'd say, could probably go either way. This really is where both candidates should campaign heavily in. But let's see. Let's go to North Carolina. So for some reason, within the change from Biden to Kamala Harris, we've seen polls in North Carolina swing heavily to the left, which is really interesting. That's something that I've noticed, and a lot of people have also noticed, that the polls went from, Trump by 3, 4 to Harris by 1. Not all of them, of course. We got Bloomberg, Morning Consult, which I don't know if they're cooking, or if they're, going too much to the left in the polling. Got Fox News saying, Fox News, they don't have that many good pollsters and polling, to be honest. Emerson, even they say it's going to be extremely close, which is really weird. You got New York Sienna from, I'd say, a month ago, and my battery's going to run out. Just give me a second. So while I get my charger, Sienna says narrow Harris victory, which is crazy, but I'm going to wait for my polling before I drop this race from a lean R margin to a tilt margin. Just because North Carolina is always that. It's kind of like the version of Nevada for Democrats, where they think they're going to win the state, but it almost always votes the same way, essentially. So you got these pollsters showing it as being extremely close, but I don't know why it would flip in 2024 or be closer than 2020. That really boggles my mind. If Harris, for some reason, is an electoral juggernaut in the Sun Belt, that'd be the funniest timeline if she does really well in the Sun Belt, but does really bad in the Rust Belt, because polling shows the opposite mostly. Yeah, politics is confusing, but I have this as a Trump victory by 1 to 3%. But I'm gonna keep my eyes on it, and I'd recommend for you to keep your eyes on it too. Michigan. So Michigan is by far the state that the Democrats have the best shot at retaining in 2024. The DNC went okay. There were no riots, which helped them, and so it wasn't a failure. They did that quite well. The issue in Israel and Palestine, that is really one of the main problems for Democrats, especially with the young vote. And where am I at? There we go. Sorry about that. That's really the main issue Democrats have, especially in Michigan, and just with young voters overall. You got pollsters from Emerson saying narrow Kamala victory. You also got let me see, New York Sienna from a month ago, but I still think yippee for car honking. Okay, so I I don't think there's gonna be too much of a difference. So I think she's gonna win here by a lean margin. I'm not sure what's going to be the margin, to be honest, but I think I'm gonna guess 1 to 3%, so maybe a drop off from 2020, but we will see. But yeah, that's it for the lean states. So as you can see, it's extremely close. The election is extremely close, and yeah, it's a toss-up from right now. And now let's go to Georgia. So Georgia, it's another state that we've seen polling just like North Carolina, that we've seen polling for some reason has gone quite heavily to the left all of a sudden since Harris became the nominee. That is really interesting. Thankfully, I don't think we got more polling here, but just in case, I'm going to check here real quick. In my opinion, Georgia, this is likely going to be the last time that Republicans are going to be able to win in here in 2024, unless they nominate Brian Kemp in 2028. But yeah, you got these polls here showing Harris narrow victory, and it does surprise me. I still think she's going to just underperform with whites here in this state, and that's why I think she's going to lose it. But if this keeps up, I will have to flip the state for Harris. But for this prediction in September, I do have Donald Trump just winning here by a margin of 0.75%. But yeah, I'm gonna keep an eye on this state too, because this is kind of interesting to see the polling deviation towards the left for Harris in these two states. And now for Wisconsin. So Wisconsin, it's a hard state to predict, to be honest. I could see it going from Harris by a lean margin to Trump by a lean margin. I know polling here in 2020 was very bad. I don't know if polling is going to be off. I could say if it's going to overpoll Democrats or overpoll Republicans, and that's going to be something that it's going to be quite hard to think. I still think that Tim Walz is going to help her in this state. Still, I'd say that still extremely close. You got Trafalgar, which is a right-leaning pulsing. Now a Trump victory, which is, to be honest, not a good sign for Donald Trump. If we go here, let's see. Siena from August, not too much polling recently, but I expect that to be the same margin coming into September with more polls in the coming weeks. I still think she's going to win here by a margin of 0.75%. I think Walz is going to help her quite a bit in this Rust Belt area. But yeah, extremely narrow, but a victory nonetheless for her. And now for Arizona. So Arizona, as many of you know, Arizona in the Senate level, it's going to be a victory for Democrats almost certainly, with Trump is not even talking to the Senate candidate Kari Lake because he thinks she's going to hurt him, and I wouldn't be surprised if she drags Trump in the state, which would be crazy to see that happen. Emerson, Fox News, Bloomberg, they all have this, they have Donald Trump winning narrowly or being extremely close, and I do think it's going to be a tilt margin here in this state. I'm guessing it's hard to even predict because of how close things are, but just making sure there's no other pollsters that I'm forgetting or that Wikipedia maybe forgot. It's a hard state to predict, but they do have a abortion referendum in Arizona, if I'm not mistaken, and I do think that's going to help Harris just narrowly pull it off in this state. I think abortion's going to be a big issue. I'm not sure how big, if it's going to be as big as 2022. I know that the main things going for the Republicans are really kind of like crime, fentanyl crisis, maybe inflation, but Democrats have abortion going for them. Abortion rights, I should say. That's really the main thing, and I think that narrowly helps Harris actually flip the state from my last prediction. If you saw, I actually had Trump winning, but I have Harris now winning the state for this one. So for Nevada, people think it's gonna flip every election for the Republicans, and it doesn't. Issue is when is it gonna flip, and that's because that's a thing that I'm wrapping my mind about since for me all things point towards a Trump victory in Nevada. I think the trends are there for Trump to win the state in 2024. With Biden, I had him winning the state, but with Kamala Harris being the nominee, I don't think she's going to be capable of retaining the state. I mean, already it's extremely close, but Emerson, extremely close, narrow. Trump victory. Bloomberg shows, but I'm waiting on, you still got New York CNN showing a Trump victory even just after the DNC, which is why, even though the poll is from a few weeks ago, still have Trump narrowly winning here. It's not as much as I had before in my last prediction. In my community post, I had this by a lean margin, but I have this by a tilt margin, so a drop off, but still a Trump win here by, I'm guessing, 0.5%. For the last state, as you can see, Pennsylvania. In my opinion, this would be my map as of now. I think Pennsylvania is a toss-up, could easily go either way. It's a coin toss by all means. Trump has a lot of things going to the state, but Harris also has a lot of things going. I think it's 50-50, but in my opinion, to be honest, even as I'm making this video right now, I'm not decided fully because I'm gonna see what happens. I'm planning to do a video in the future, maybe a few weeks, with my prediction post debates, and that's because I'm looking at debates. I don't know how many there will be. Maybe we're only going to get one, and the debate is really the main way I could see Donald Trump edging out a victory and really topping off Harris in this state. And we got Trafalgar right here. Trump by 2, which is not a good look because Trafalgar is right-leaning, so you got Morning Consult, which is a bit left-leaning in my opinion, showing a Harris victory by 3. Let me see any pollsters. Quinnipiac, narrowed Harris victory. CNN from a month ago, still, I mean, we haven't gotten a lot of polling for September because, it's barely September. But the fact that Trump hasn't gained momentum since the convention should be worrying for Republicans. I mean, their best shot right now is doing well in the debate, and that's really the area where I could see Trump edging out a victory right here narrowly. I think Pennsylvania is the state that Republicans should 100% focus in, because if they lose Pennsylvania, they lose the election. If Republicans lose Pennsylvania, it's over. And that's really the main issue for Republicans. Still have this as a complete toss-up, but for the sake of the video and the sake of your viewership, right now, I do have Harris barely winning here by a margin of 0.25%. Around 60 days away from the election, she is overperforming my expectations just about. And Donald Trump really needs to land some punches right now in the coming weeks to get back into the campaign, in my opinion. But as you can see, right now, I have Harris narrowly winning with 281 electoral votes. Let me know what your map looks like. Feel free to leave a like, share, and subscribe, and have a good one.